If you're an American who's desperate to move out of the United States and you're thinking about moving to New Zealand, cop high. However, there are some things that you need to consider first. I wrote a book called So You Want to Move to New Zealand. I'm a dual citizen, and I wrote this book to help Americans learn about some of the issues of moving to Aotearoa, New Zealand. So here are like the 5 things that people do not really take into account when they try to move. Number 1, your current outstanding United States debt in relation to the exchange rate here. So let's use this example. You have $100,000 of outstanding student loan debt in the United States. Then you move here, and because of the exchange rate, now that is 150,000 New Zealand dollars. So you have to work extra hard to pay off that loan in the States. You really need to do your homework to figure out if you can pay that debt off with the salary and factoring in the exchange rate. Number 2, pet immigration. New Zealand makes it extremely expensive and extremely difficult to get a dog or a cat into this country. And there are several breeds of dog that they don't even allow in here. If you want more information on that, check out my book. The link's in my bio. You can also check out the Ministry for Primary Industries pet immigration website. And yeah, they make it highly expensive, around $10,000 after you factor in all of the vet bills, the vaccinations, the flights, everything. Number 3, don't assume that just because you have an awesome degree and an awesome job in the United States, that your degree and your skills will transfer here. A good example of this is a lawyer. Law is completely different in New Zealand. You can't just come here and say, I'm going to be a lawyer. Well, you'd have to learn an entire set of new laws for an entire different country, so what you learned in the States does not apply. Another example of this is optometry. Optometrists, they have to go to school for a long time. They get their doctorate, and that's great. But when they come here, you have to go back to school. It sucks. But I know someone who went through this, and it's not fair, but that's the way that it is. So do your due diligence. Look at the green list on the immigration website for New Zealand, and then see what transfers. Talk to people in, Facebook groups or Reddit threads about their experience of moving here and if their skills transferred. Number 4, this is a big one if you want to stay long-term, retirement issues. It is so frustrating to my husband and I, he's also American, that we basically cannot have a Kiwi saver because the United States taxes the Kiwi saver, which is the retirement scheme here in New Zealand, as a foreign trust at 37% on unrealized gains every single year. This has led me and my husband to opt out of KiwiSaver, and we have had to get really creative to save for retirement elsewhere. That's a long, drawn-out topic. I have other videos that I've done on my page about this topic, and I also talk about it in my book, so check it out. Because, if you want to come here long-term and make this country your new home, how are you going to afford it if you can't effectively save for retirement? And finally, you need to look at your salary to cost of living ratio. Now, some things in New Zealand are way cheaper. For instance, healthcare is cheaper because once you qualify, everybody gets basic universal healthcare. Daycare, early childhood education is cheaper here because it's subsidized heavily by the government. So those are things that are cheaper here. But you know what's not cheap here? Gas. Gasoline right now is equivalent to $11 a gallon. And the more this thing in the Middle East drags on, it's going to go up and up and up. And I foresee it to be probably around $13, $14 a gallon by middle of this year if this doesn't stop. If you make a good salary in the States, do not assume that that is the same salary you're going to get here in New Zealand. Medical professionals who make a ton of money in the States often come here and then do not get paid the same. You need to take into account, though, that you don't have to carry nearly the same amount in medical malpractice insurance here. You really need to do the math. How much is it to rent here? How much is gas going to be? Should I downsize my car when I get here because of the cost of gas? Should I live closer to my work so that my commute is less? What will my salary look like in New Zealand compared to the States? But then I also need to account for things like, what am I already paying in the States that's pulling away from my paycheck, like my malpractice insurance or my health insurance, things like that. Again, the link is in my bio for my audiobook or my ebook. And I wrote the book because I want to see Americans thrive here and bring their skills to Aotearoa, New Zealand, because we need professionals here. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of Americans come to this country and then a year after turn around because they failed, because they didn't account for some of these things.